New month. New month, new theme. The theme for the month of December is Everything is Holy. And today's talk is sacred ground. Sacred ground. Don't you like the sound of that? Don't you like the feel of that? We are standing on sacred ground. Wherever we are standing on sacred ground. New Year's Eve at my grandmother's house, all the years I was growing up, included the observation of a ritual called first footing, or qualtop in Gaelic. And right before midnight, the oldest son of the family was pushed out of the house. And then remember, this is in New York, so it's like 17 degrees too. And out with him goes all of the ills of the family of the year, the year that was ending. And the poor guy is standing out in the front yard, freezing. And then at midnight, the stroke of midnight, the bells go and the whistles, and he's out there banging on a pot with a wooden spoon. And all the celebration happens in the house. And the oldest son, who was standing out there freezing his butt off, gets to be the first person to cross the threshold into the house on the new year. And he brings in with him health, wealth, love, luck, and happiness for the family. And it was a cool ritual to see. I didn't believe it, but it was a really cool ritual to watch and to observe. And I've actually continued it with my family ever since I had children. Ask Adrian, I push him out. He's in the back there. I push him out of the house on New Year's Eve, right before the new year. And we continue that ritual. Now, again, it's not what I believe, but it's what I practice because it's more of a tradition than anything else. I remember my grandmother had tons of superstitions like that one, the pui, the spitting, and the salt of the shoulder, and the what else, all kinds of turning around 3 times, and if you break a mirror, oh my God, and all that stuff, and don't touch the plants when you have never mind, because they'll die. I mean, there was all kinds of things. But you know how it is when it's your faith tradition, when it's your family, it's a ritual, but when it's someone else's, it's superstition, right? It's kind of the way we look at things. But Ernest Holmes said this. He said, if one believes that virtue consists in fasting, then virtue appears to him through fasting. But to him who finds no virtue in fasting, feasting may appear to be the greater virtue. We are concerned with the non-essentials, straining at gnats, while swallowing mountains of superstition. And there are tons of them out there, aren't there? The evil eye. Oh, I love that one. I was from New York. Ooh, this thing, and the evil eye, and salt over the shoulder, and 3 on a match. How old am I? Do you remember 3 on a match? Oh, my God. Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one in the room. What else is the rabbit's foot? Which, by the way, is a step up, because before it was a rabbit's foot, it was a human's foot. Do we know that? That's where that came from. Anyway, we don't even need to go there. But the gree-gree bag, and the Caribbean of voodoo, of the gree-gree bag that wards off evil or invites good luck or prosperity in. What else do we have? Tea leaves and garlic and, holding up the cross. We have the ever-popular statue of St. Joseph to sell a house. Are there any real estate agents in the room? Okay, you know what I'm talking about, right? The ever-popular St. Joseph to sell a house. But you know what? Oh, but that one's real. That one really does. Just ask any real estate agent. It works. You buy that little statue of St. Joseph and you bury him in the yard of the house you want to sell, and presto, it sells. Now, there's a difference of opinion if you read the research about where to bury the statue, how to bury the statue, how deep to bury the statue, how the statue should be facing when it's buried, front yard, backyard, next to the for sale sign, all kinds of different superstitions around it. But whatever, whatever. It's sort of like, it's one of those things. just like throwing the salt over your shoulder. Now, Ernest Holmes said this. He said, all superstition is ignorance. All superstition is ignorance. So what are we doing with all this stuff? You know, we got tons of stuff we bring with us through our families and our tribes and our clans and whatever. So what are we doing with all this stuff? We're really, really trying to find an edge, aren't we? We're trying to find an angle. We're trying to find some way, find some direct connection with the divine who will then work on our behalf. We're trying to convince a deity to work for us. And that's what all that stuff is about. Now, there are several false beliefs in that concept. First, there is the mistaken belief that there's any power in any of those objects to begin with. They're just objects. There is no power in that little statue of St. Joseph to sell a house. Honest to God, real estate agents, I am not kidding you. There is no power in that gris bag, except, it really smells nice. They put a lot of herbs and spices in it, and they smell wonderful. But there's no power in that gris bag. There is no power in the eldest son's foot crossing the threshold first in the new year. There is no inherent power in that. Now, crystals have power. No, they don't. I'm only kidding. No, they don't. Mark 10:52 said this, go thy way. Thy faith has made thee whole, right? And in Luke 7:50, and he said to the woman, thy faith has saved thee. Go in peace. Matthew 9:22, Mark 5:34, Luke 8:48, Luke 18:42, all of those passages, all of them say the same thing. Our faith reveals our wholeness. Nothing else. Nothing else. There was no power in the hem of the garment. It was faith that reveals the wholeness. It is our faith that moves mountains. And that's what Jesus spoke to every single time. When we place our power in the object or in the thing, we are giving our power over to something outside of ourselves. We're giving our power over to something outside of ourselves. When we exercise our faith, when we build our faith muscles in good times, when things are really, really going well, that when things go haywire, we have this deep reservoir of faith to lean into. Now, there's a scene in an old vampire movie. I was talking to Paul. I was talking to Paul about it the other day. Well, he was talking to me about it. I don't remember. But we were saying that it was a scene where the vampire is, walking into the room, and the terrified human, he's terrified, and he's trembling in his boots, and he, and he holds up the cross to the vampire, and the vampire very nonchalantly just bats it away, and he goes, "It has no power unless you have faith in it." Right? That's what it is. It has no power unless you have faith in it. So that's a big false belief. We have a tendency to give our power over to these things that are meaningless. It's not the thing, it's what's within us. It's the faith within us. The other false belief we carry around with us is, again, another version of the idea of duality. But this duality is the sacred and the profane. That there is the sacred and the profane. There is the God stuff and the non-God stuff. There is the holy, and then there are the mundane workings of the everyday human life. And we tend to separate the two. Now, this is a different sense of duality from good and evil. We're not talking about good and evil. That's another false belief. And that would make a really juicy talk too, but that's not this one. Sacred and profane. The duality of the sacred and the profane. As if anything could and or does lie outside of the realm of spirit. How can that be? When our first principle is God is everything, then everywhere we are, it's holy. This lectern, I almost knocked it over, is holy. The seat you're sitting in is holy. Where we stand is holy ground. Everywhere we are at the heart of God. If God is everything, then everything is sacred. We must go back to principle. God is all there is. What makes churches more sacred than your living room? Nothing. Nothing. What makes the synagogue or the mosque or the meeting room any more sacred than the kitchen or the car seat or the bathroom stall? And believe me, I've done some of my best prayings in bathroom stalls. Nothing. It's no different. Everywhere we are, that is holy ground. It is our energy. It is our consciousness that we bring to it wherever we are. That is the only difference. The consciousness we bring to any situation makes all the difference in the world. You know, Ernest Holmes used to say, because we are open at the top, that we, if you have a headache, take an aspirin. You know, we don't object to alternate forms of healing at all. You know, you have a headache, he said, take an aspirin. Just know that behind the aspirin is spirit, that it's spirit at work in our lives. That's what's doing the work. Our consciousness makes all the difference in the world. And when we heal the illusion that there is God and something else, then we really, really no longer need the amulets and the potions and the good luck charms and the items of ritual and sacrifice. Now, that doesn't mean we can't refer to them, doesn't mean we can't use them or hold them or enjoy them, but we just know that the power behind all life is spirit. That's the only power that there is. We can hold them, sure, but we know that spirit is behind all of it. We can hold a crystal in our hand, and if it makes us feel grounded, it's our consciousness that is providing the grounding. I can hold my pen in my hand and feel just as grounded because it is the consciousness I bring to it. When we go back to principle, when we know that God is all there is, we know that there is no separation, we know that there is not God stuff and non-God stuff. We know that it's all one. We know that it's all God. Therefore, everything in the manifest world is some outpicturing of the divine. Everything is some outpicturing of the divine. So now you sit there and you think, well, wait a minute, you said just a minute ago there is no power in things. And now you're saying God is all there is. So there's got to be God stuff in the things, right? Makes sense, absolutely. Yes, of course, everything is made of the stuff of God. But again, the difference is our consciousness. The German philosopher Friedrich von Schelling said this. He said, mind sleeps in the stone. It dreams in the plant. It awakens in the animal. And it becomes conscious in humans. And that makes all the difference in the world. There is no us and them. There is no sacred and profane. There is only a degree of awakening. There is only the degree of awakening. So then if everything is God, how can we treat the earth as anything less than holy? It is sacred ground. It is the outpicturing of a conscious divine spirit who knows of itself in form. God is all there is. The manifest universe exists. It is the natural and logical outpicturing of a spirit that knows of itself, that creates. It creates everything out of itself, so everything is God stuff. Everything is God stuff. The manifest world is then the body of God. That's what it is. It must be treated with reverence and respect, with love. If we profess to love God, then we must love each other, because we are outpicturings of the divine mind of God. We are some part of the life of God. If we profess to love God, we must love the earth and everything in it and on it. How could we treat the earth with disdain if we realize it is the body of God? Who would frack God? Being conscious is awakening. It is knowing that all life is some part of the life of God. Being conscious is about walking through life awake and knowing that what we do affects people, places, and things around us. It's not about getting caught up in the chaos and the consumption. Oh, what a great month to talk about that, right? It's not about getting caught up in the chaos and the consumption of things, but standing in the truth of knowing the divine life of God is my life, right here and now. The divine life of God is my life, right here and now. Say that. The divine life of God is my life, right here and now. And as I awaken to that truth of my interconnectedness with all life, I must treat everything as holy. I must treat everything as sacred. Albert Einstein said this. He said, there are two ways to live. You can live as if nothing is a miracle. You can live as if everything is a miracle. I prefer to live as if everything is a miracle. I prefer to live as if I am living in the midst of spirit, because I am. I prefer to believe everyone is an outpicturing of the divine, because they are. I believe when I meet someone, it is a holy, holy encounter, because it is. I prefer to see God in the eyes of another when we look at each other, because that is truth. I prefer to live consciously, to tread lightly, to apologize easily, to love powerfully, and to understand that all life is some part of the life of God. And Rumi said it better than I ever could. He said this, I do not want to step so quickly over a beautiful line on God's palm. As I move through the earth's marketplace today, I do not want to touch any object in this world without my eyes testifying to the truth that everything is my beloved. Something has happened to my understanding of existence that now makes my heart always full of wonder and kindness. I do not want to step so quickly over this sacred place on God's body that is right beneath my own foot as I dance with precious life today. That's the way I want to live. That's the way I want to live, because we are always walking on sacred ground. Have a wonderful week.